Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, gave me enlightenment, opened my eyes with the torchlight of Bhakti Vedanta, the conclusion of the Vedas coated with devotion. Trinadapi sunichena torad iva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. My Lord and Master Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed around my neck 3 for constant remembrance. For constant remembrance, this mantra, that I must be more humble than a blade of grass, straw in the street, more tolerant than a tree, offer all respects to others, and not be concerned about getting respect myself. If I can do this, then I can fulfill the mantra, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way of salvation, self-realization, advancement, other than the chanting of the holy name of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, in 1966, was in New York City. It took him, he arrived in America in 1965, in September, but the first temple was not actually established until July, August of 1966. And when Srila Prabhupada formed this movement, ISKCON, he had principles, and there were 7 matters, 7 subjects that this mission was all about. So in December of 1966, he now has his first temple in the Lower East Side of New York City. He is invited to record a record album. One Mr. Alan Coleman, who I once met. I was doing some work for the temple, and I was in what is called the Garment District of New York City. So I was about to hail a cab to go back to the temple, where this limousine pulled up. The door opened. The man said, "Come in." I figured, limousine, what's going to go wrong? And so he introduced himself as Mr. Alan Coleman, and I knew what that meant, because he was the one that produced Prabhupada's first recording, the famous chanting that you've heard so many times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, after recording 15, 16 minutes of that Hare Krishna Maha-mantra, Mr. Coleman requested that they work on the side 2 of the album. And so Prabhupada had a written address, a written explanation of this Hare Krishna Maha-mantra, because he was introducing it to America on a large scale. So he wanted to make sure that anyone who got this record would understand what this Maha-mantra means. because it means something. It is full of transcendental knowledge. That record was also picked up by the Beatles. And when they first started playing it, they couldn't stop. They kept playing it over and over again. Because that is the nature of the Hare Krishna mantra. It is so nice. So Prabhupada's explanation of the Maha-mantra is the subject matter of my talk tonight. In speaking, in order for me to be empowered, I must remember a very important sloka. Yata deve yasya bhaktir yata deve tata gurau tasyaite katihita hi artha prakashante mahatmanaha. So, who actually understands the Vedic knowledge? It is that person who has complete faith in Krishna Bhagavan, an equal amount of faith in the spiritual master who reveals Bhagavan. If I have implicit faith in Guru and Krishna, then my understanding of the Vedas will be appropriate, will be correct. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gurau tasyaite katihi hyarta prakashante mahatmanaha. So Prabhupada had prepared an address, and I'd like to go over that and explain it line by line, because there's so much that can be said about this. So before speaking, I must offer my respects to Guru Dev, and I must also offer my respects to the Yuga Avatar, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Prabhupada's address begins. You've come right on time. This transcendental vibration, so right there, transcendental vibration. We must never think that the holy name of God is material or mundane. It is transcendental. It is liberated. It is beyond the modes of nature. The name of God is completely spiritual. Chintamani. Chintamani. Nama Chintamani Krishna. The holy name of Krishna is transcendentally spiritual. So when we chant, it is a transcendental vibration, completely different from any other material sound vibration. This transcendental vibration, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the sublime method for reviving our Krishna consciousness. This is also needs to be explained. First of all, sublime method. When something is sublime, it's easy and very, very enjoyable, pleasurable. In Bhagavad Gita, susukam kartum. This chanting, this devotional service is a easy, very nice, simple, easy process. Sukam. Sukam, you know, means happiness. Susukam, maximum happiness. So easy. So it's sublime, but what is it doing? Reviving our Krishna consciousness. Now, Prabhupada specifically uses this word, reviving. Reviving means something was alive, was practically at the point of death, comes back to life. We see in the Bhagavatam, there are histories of wars between demigods and demons. And sometimes the demons are killed, but the great mystic Mayadanava can bring them back to life. Or Shukracharya, the guru of the demons, has Brahminical Tejas. He can bring the demons back to life. So, we already had Krishna consciousness, but we have forgotten it. So this chanting revives that. Otherwise, how this Hare Krishna chanting took off in America in 1966. Prabhupada's first disciples were not Hindu. They were all Americans. So why were they becoming dancing white elephants? Why were they now chanting and dancing? Because that was already in them. It was their original consciousness. And they heard the chanting, they saw Prabhupada, they got prasad, as in my case, got prasad. Krishna consciousness was revived. Prabhupada continues, as living spiritual soul, we are all originally Krishna conscious entities. So, that is our original natural state, to be conscious of Krishna, conscious of God. That is our original consciousness. But due to association with matter from time immemorial, our consciousness is now polluted by material atmosphere. So that's where we are at now. Originally, we were God conscious, Krishna conscious. We have come to this material world. We accepted the association of matter in so many ways. And what happened? Our consciousness becomes polluted. That's why Lord Chaitanya's first instruction, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, cleanse the consciousness, cleanse the heart, cleanse the mind of this polluted material atmosphere. In this polluted concept of life, we are all trying to exploit the resources of material nature. But actually, we are becoming more and more entangled in her complexities. Classic example, Ravana. Ravana thought that he could possess or lord it over Sita. But he became entangled. He was warned by his ministers and by so many. Give up this attachment to Sita. This is going to destroy your whole kingdom. But he was too attached, couldn't give it up. He lost all his sons. He lost his kingdom. He lost his life. Trying to exploit. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a word, daryate, which has two meanings, daryate. This word comes in the 7th chapter, where Krishna is explaining why there is a need for the material manifestation. So this word daryate is there. Two meanings. One, to exploit. The other meaning, utilize. So exploitation is done by the demons. They want the material energy for their enjoyment exclusively. Only I will enjoy. I'll give a few crumbs to the poor beggars, but mostly I want to enjoy. So therefore they exploit Krishna's material energy. But the other meaning was utilize. So the devotees they utilize the material energy to love and serve Krishna. As you can see, I have a mixer, a tape recorder, a camera, a computer, a speaker, headset. It's not that we are against material things, no. The question is, how is it being utilized? Is it being utilized for my own personal sense aggrandizement, or is it being used to spread the message of Krishna? As long as I utilize these things to spread the message of Krishna, I am protected. But the second I use it to lord it over, then I'm entrapped, as it says here, more and more entangled in her complexities. This illusion is called Maya, or hard struggle for existence, for winning over the stringent laws of material nature. Right there, Prabhupada is paraphrasing the 15th chapter, verse 7 of Bhagavad Gita, the last two lines. That we are, what is our material predicament? Manakshastan indriyani prakritishtani karshati. Krishna told Arjuna, you are spirit soul, but you are right now grappling, struggling with the modes of nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, always vying for supremacy. And Prabhupada says stringent laws of material nature. If a child touches fire, the laws of nature are stringent. The fire does not say, oh, it's a little child, I won't burn. No, the law is there. Fire burns, young or old. So, Krishna's material energy is under strict laws which you cannot violate. You try to violate, that is called vikarma. That is called sin. And you will get a consequent reaction known as suffering, either now or in the future. But the suffering is there. This illusory struggle against the material nature can at once be stopped by revival of our Krishna consciousness. So, you want to get out of Maya, you want to get out of suffering, you want to get out of predicaments. Prabhupada is giving you the keys, the solution. Revive your Krishna consciousness. This is the second time he uses the word revival. It's twice now. That means it's an important word to comprehend. Reviving. So if you ever wake up one day and you realize, yes, I'm in a whole lot of Maya, no problem. Just begin chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. Somebody might think like that. That chanting is something artificial. No. This consciousness is the original energy of living entity. So that ties into what he said previously. This is the original energy. Our original energy is this Krishna consciousness. Now the context. So by definition, the definition of God has to include always existed, exists at present, and will continue to exist. If that is not there, then the definition of God that someone's using is faulty. That's a major point. He always existed, exists now, and will forever to continue to exist. But according to Bhagavad Gita 15:7, Krishna told Arjuna, and he also said it in chapter 2, that Arjuna, you also always existed as you exist now, and you will forever exist. You may change forms, transmigration of the soul, but you, the soul, the Atma, the real you, that you have yet to see in the mirror, that always existed. When I first understood this concept, it took a while, maybe a year or two after joining the temple. But one day it clicked. I always existed. Wow. That itself is liberating. I always existed. I exist now, and I will continue to exist. It won't be like this, but the me, that will go on. That is such a nice understanding. When we hear the transcendental vibration, the consciousness of Krishna is revived. Again, that's the third time revived. He's hammering that point. And the process is recommended by authorities for this age. This is the age of Kali. In the different yugas, different processes of self-realization were the recommended process. In Satya Yuga, people just meditated on Krishna in the heart. They were super advanced in general. They simply did meditation of Krishna in the heart. Eventually they became liberated. In the next age, Treta Yuga, the recommended process was elaborate sacrifices. Like when we did the installation, we had a Homa, right? So, in these kinds of sacrifices, there would be the assembly of great kings. Even demigods would come. There is the history of the sacrifice performed by Daksha. And it was mentioned, all the Brahmins, Rishis, and the demigods were there at that sacrifice. So in that kind of sacrifice, so many pounds of ghee were used, because you have to do swaha. And so you need ghee, the real thing. So much ghee was used. Now our pujaris, they have their deity paraphernalia, but for these yagyas, everything was gold. All the sacrificial items were made of gold. So these sacrifices were very costly. Then in Dwapara Yuga, the recommended process was archan, worship of the deity in the temple. Prabhupada once told us, if I showed you all the rules and regulations for strict deity worship, you'd faint. So what Prabhupada has given us is just, you could say, the bare minimum to worship Radha and Krishna. But in this age of Kali, the process had become simple. Krishna could not have made the process any simple. Just chant the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it. You have a tongue, you have 2 ears, you're in. And Lord Chaitanya taught, Niyamatak Smarane Nukala. No hard and fast rules. You don't have to worry about, did I take my bath? Or my clothes? Nope, don't worry about it. Don't have to worry about if it's noon or morning. No consideration. Anyone under any circumstance, Om Apavitra Pavitrava, purified or impurified, doesn't matter. You just take shelter of this Hare Krishna mantra and be liberated. That's why Prabhupada says he recommended by authorities. He's quoting this verse I said in the beginning. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gatir anyata. 3 times kalau, 3 times nasti eva. Just to hammer the point. In the Vedas, it is said that when something is repeated 3 times, it means this is very important. By practical experience, we can perceive that by chanting this Maha-mantra, or the great chanting for deliverance, one can at once feel transcendental ecstasy from the spiritual stratum. So, any kind of blissful feelings that you can experience while chanting, you should understand that is a glimmer of transcendental ecstasy. And it's not material. It's, as he says here, coming from the spiritual stratum. Notice he says, great chanting for deliverance, Maha-mantra. There are many, 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 many mantras in the Vedas. But this one is called Maha-mantra. As I was explaining to one of my students earlier today in an email, one meaning of Maha-mantra is all mantras are already included in this Hare Krishna Maha-mantra. Already included. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When one is factually on the plane of spiritual understanding, surpassing the stages of sense, mind, and intelligence, one is situated on the transcendental plane. So these are different experiences. There is the stage of sense, realizing things by using your senses, sensory knowledge. But then there's the mind, which is subtle, which is beyond. Then you have intelligence, which is another more subtle stage of mental activities. But then there's the transcendental plane, nirguna. No material qualities on the transcendental plane. There are spiritual qualities, but nirguna means no material qualities, pure, shuddha. This chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is directly enacted from the spiritual platform, surpassing all lower stages of consciousness, namely sensual, mental, and intellectual. So again, he's emphasizing. Chanting is on the spiritual platform. You're immediately raised. There is no need of understanding the language of the mantra. Yes, I've gotten this so many times. Prabhuji, have you studied Sanskrit? It's not necessary. Prabhupada has already in his major books explained each and every shloka, giving the synonyms of each and every word. And even apart from not studying, because I have read his books over and over, and so many shlokas I can recite from memory. Simply by it, because Prabhupada repeats his favorite shlokas. So that sometimes is given as an excuse. Oh, I'm not going to chant because first I want to learn Sanskrit. That's silly. It's the same silliness as these people who don't want to take the vaccine. It's there. Prabhupada has given you the word meanings. Just take it. Thrive. Nor there is any need for mental speculation. Yes. The experience of chanting is like eating. You all have your favorite food. I have many favorites. One of my favorites is patra. Anybody make patra lately? I haven't had it in a long time. So I can try to describe to somebody, oh, this patra is like this, but better here, taste it. The experience itself tells you everything. So in terms of this Maha-mantra, you just chant and then see the experience. Of course, sometimes we are invited to speak in high schools and colleges. So we always open with a demonstration of chanting. And I'm the one that usually, there's a team of us, but I'm the one that leads the chanting. So I always explain to the students, don't worry about anything. For the next 5 minutes, just try to get absorbed in these transcendental sounds. And they all enjoy the chanting for that 5 minutes. Why? Because it is actually a transcendental experience. As Prabhupada writes here, it springs automatically from the spiritual platform. And as such, anyone can take part. Yes. Anyone. Americans, Hindus, Mexicans, they're chanting all over the world. Even in China, there are Chinese devotees. Of course, they chant with their Chinese way of speaking, but they're chanting Hare Krishna. They're chanting the holy name. Anyone can take part in this transcendental sound vibration without any previous qualification. Remember, I said, Lord Chaitanya, no hard and fast rules. So nobody's disqualified, and nobody should be puffed up thinking, yes, I am very qualified to chant. No. We're fortunate. So no previous qualification. Right? If you go for a job, what do they want to see? Do you have a college degree? Where is your resume? Where have you worked? So with chanting Hare Krishna, nothing to worry about. Just chant and dance in ecstasy. We have seen it practically. Even a child can take part in the chanting, or even a dog can take part in it. Yeah, many times. We do the Sankirtan party. The dogs sometimes join. There's one famous incident with Lord Chaitanya. That dog traveled all the way from Bengal to Orissa. Would not give up the association of devotees. And then when the devotees arrived, there was that dog sitting next to Lord Chaitanya, and the dog was chanting. The chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord. So I urge you all to get a hold of Prabhupada's chanting. If you are so interested, you can contact me and I can send you every recording of Prabhupada's bhajan and kirtan. You just have to give me your email, because that's what I listen to every day. I take this very seriously. Chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee. I have seen it with my own eyes. Prabhupada is a pure devotee of Krishna. So I want to hear his chanting. I try to emulate his method. Chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee so that immediate effect can be achieved. As far as possible, chanting from the lips of non-devotees should be avoided, such as milk touched by the lips of a serpent causes poisonous effect. So that poisonous effect is some kind of Mayavad understanding of the Maha-mantra. When it's chanted by a pure devotee, then the bhakti becomes very prevalent. But if chanted by a non-devotee, even though he's chanting, that chanting will be covered by tinges of impersonalism, voidism, or even fruitive intention. In other words, like milk touched by the lips of a serpent. Here comes one of my favorite parts of this address. The word hara is the form of addressing the energy of the Lord. So hara is another name for Srimati Radharani. Shri Shri RadhaRaman Bhagavan Ki. So this is the first word in the Maha-mantra. Mother Hara, the pleasure potency, represented by Radharani or Sita or Lakshmi or Rukmini. This is all Mother Hara, the divine absolute mother. So this is the energy, the pleasure energy. Both Krishna and Rama are form of addressing the Lord directly, and they mean the highest pleasure eternal. There are several different meanings of Krishna. The general explanation, Krishna means all attractive. Another esoteric meaning of Krishna is that he is the reservoir of all pleasure and he destroys material consciousness. Rama, of course, means, as Prabhupada says here, the highest pleasure, eternal. Material pleasure is temporary. It comes and goes. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Even though happiness is in the mode of goodness, it's temporary. It has a beginning and end. What to speak of happiness in passion and ignorance. This is in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So material happiness is by definition limited and temporary. But Krishna and Rama signify the highest pleasure eternal. Hara is the supreme pleasure potency of the Lord. This potency, when addressed as Hare, helps us in reaching the Supreme Lord. So we say, Hare Krishna. First we address Radha. Or we say, Sita Ram. First Sita, Mother Sita. Lakshmi, then Narayan. We approach the feminine aspect of the absolute truth. Yes, I love explaining this. The absolute truth is one manifested as two. Divine male, divine female. Radha, Krishna. So when this potency addressed as Hare helps us in reaching the Supreme Lord. The material energy, called as Maya, is also one of the multi-potencies of the Lord, as much as we are also marginal potency of the Lord. So here Prabhupada is explaining Vedanta philosophy, that the energies of God, although they are multifarious, unlimited, for our understanding, all the different energies of Krishna are defined in terms of three categories. The internal spiritual potency, the material potency, and then the living entity, the soul. Prabhupada will explain. The living entities are described as superior energy than matter. So this is the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. You're not matter. You're not the body. You are eternal spirit soul. That's the first lesson of Bhagavad Gita. It's very clear. So that's why Prabhupada says the living entities are described as superior energy than matter. Because the Bhagavad Gita clearly says we are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is all spiritual. We are also all spiritual. A spark of fire is not as great as the blazing fire, but in quality it's one. The drop of water from the ocean is non-different from the ocean, but it's only a drop compared to the ocean. So the living entities are compared to sparks or drops of water or sun rays. Another Vedic example, my favorite. The living entity is compared to the sun ray emanating from the blazing sun, Krishna. We cannot exist separate from Krishna. The state of mentality thinking that I can live separate from Krishna, that is Maya. That is Maya, to think I can live independent of Krishna. I am the Supreme. That's Maya. When the superior energy is in contact with this inferior energy, it becomes an incompatible situation. So there he again is referring to trying to lord it over the material energy. The Maya dictates, try to exploit, try to enjoy the material energy. But at the end of the day, we realize it's not possible to enjoy. Ravana could not enjoy Sita. It was impossible. The living entity is spiritual, is not going to be happy with any amount of material energy. Because since we are spiritual, the only thing that actually will satisfy us is spiritual. Matter, as he says here, incompatible situation. There's that classic thing. It's like trying to fit a square into a round hole. It won't work. Bhagavad Gita is very clear. All material endeavors are bound to end in frustration. The best course, which was accepted by Vyasadeva when recommended by his guru Narada, is to simply engage in spiritual activities. The three words, namely Hara, Krishna, and Rama, are the transcendental seeds of the Maha-mantra. So these are called Bij mantras. Just like you all know Om, right? So Om is a Bij mantra. And there are other clean, so many different seeds. So here are the three seeds of this Maha-mantra. Hara, everybody say, Hara, Krishna, Rama, and are the transcendental seeds of the Maha-mantra. And the chanting is a spiritual call for the Lord. So we're calling out to Krishna and his internal energy, Hara, or in this case, in our temple, Radha, for giving protection to the conditioned soul. I don't know about you, but every day I get another day older and I am praying to Krishna for a protection. Especially, I call it now, the age of COVID, no longer the age of Kali. We're in the age of COVID, which is probably going to last a few more years. So we're in the age of COVID. So every day I am feeling like this, a spiritual call to the Lord and his eternal energy, Hara, for giving protection to the conditioned soul. The chanting is exactly like genuine cry by the child for mother. So this is how to really chant. Like a child crying for its mother. Mother Hara helps in achieving the grace of the Supreme Father, Hari, or Krishna. And the Lord reveals himself to such sincere devotee. So that's all you have to do, is just be sincere when you chant. Chant from the heart, sincerely. No other means, therefore, of spiritual realization is as effective in this age as chanting the Maha-mantra. So let's chant, and let's chant like a child crying for its mother. And let's chant so that Krishna will give us protection. Krishna, 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 hey. They. Krishna, 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 hey. Krishna, Krishna, come on. Krishna, Krishna. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahimam. My dear Lord Krishna, please bless all these nice devotees who have patiently heard your message. Please take away all their anxieties. Please make your presence known in their hearts. And may they all become more and more attached to your lotus feet. I'll ask you one last time to please repeat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I want to thank the management of this temple for allowing me this privilege to speak on the science of Krishna. Thank you very much.